Well, hello everyone. Happy Monday to you. I hopped back on because I did not realize that for the first half of the live that it was muted. And I did not want to not share with you the entire message that I shared on Instagram. I won't be long, but I wanted to make sure that everyone was able to capture the points that I shared and that you all walk away feeling empowered in your wholeness. And so I don't want to count it robbery that you all have Instagram and are able to view that. So I'm just going to go very quickly through what I shared previously from our live. But once you come on, let me know what city and state you're from. Let me know what country you're from. I hope that all is well and that everyone is doing amazing on tonight. But again, I just want to make sure that I come back on and share with you all what I shared earlier about how two halves don't make a whole. I know that when you hear that, you're like, wait, 1 + 1 = 2, 50 plus 50 equals 100. But when it comes to relationships, okay, when it comes to relationships, it is a horrible misconception that we've been taught over the years that 50 relationships are 50-50. Relationships are not 50-50. There are some days in relationships when one person is 90%, the other person is 10%. There's some days when one person is 75%, the other one is 25%. But when it comes to wholeness and the characteristics of a person who is in a relationship, it should not be dependent on the other person. When you are in a position of wholeness, you come into the relationship already being what you're requiring that other person to be. So, in other words, there is this these standards sometimes, which standards are a beautiful thing. I believe in standards. I think that they're great, but sometimes we can require so much of the other person, and we forget to put the spotlight on ourselves, right? And share, the things that we're requiring of them, we still need to work on. And so tonight, what I want to do, one, is break down what wholeness is. And once you're able to identify what wholeness is, then you'll be able to see, well, wait, do I have some things I need to work on? If there's some things that I need to be focusing on, I posted on Facebook a little bit earlier. Are you prepared for what you're praying for? Are you prepared for it? Are you prepared for that person that you have fasted for and believe God for and you're reading scriptures about? But are you prepared? Are you ready for what's coming? And so tonight we want to talk about that. We want to talk about wholeness. So our mental and spiritual state can affect our bodies, and our bodies can affect our mental and spiritual state in the same way. Perfect example would be when I was sick last year. Now, I'm mentally strong. I mean, I'm hard to break. There's not much that can shake me. Um, my relationship with the Lord is sound. I love Him. I'm not leaving Him. Nothing can stop me from serving and worshiping Him. But when I physically was injured, I was like, God, take me now. I felt so horrible. I was in agonizing pain. And so, although my mental and spiritual state were fine, my body and how I felt truly did affect my state of mind. And so, you have to make sure that you're not lopsided in both. Hello, my friend. Glad I caught the live. Hey, Shanti. Glad you're doing well. Okay. So it's important to understand that they affect one another. Our mental and spiritual state can affect our bodies, and our bodies can truly affect our mental and spiritual state. So being whole means that your spirit, soul, and body, okay? Your spirit, soul, and your body. are aligned, healthy, and positioned towards God. The Lord should always be our barometer, right? And so being whole means that your spirit, soul, and body are aligned, healthy, and positioned towards God. So there are 4 components of wholeness. Okay? There are 4 components of wholeness that we're going to talk about quickly on tonight. Okay? The first component of wholeness is your physical state. This is one we get in trouble with. Before I got on live, I went and got me some waffle fries and a spicy chicken sandwich from Chick-fil-A. Now, I know that I'm trying to lose weight, but I gave in on tonight. But the awareness is there to say, Shavonda, if you want to lose weight, you cannot keep going and getting a spicy chicken sandwich and those waffle fries with that Polynesian sauce. You got to do better. So our physical state is important for our wholeness. You cannot be believing God for a husband or a spouse and you're sick. Well, you're not going to be able to enjoy the marriage. So your physical state, as we said in the beginning, our bodies, and how our bodies are, it can affect our mental and spiritual state. So our physical attributes are extremely important. Getting your checkups. Men, are you getting your prostate checked? Women, are you getting your mammograms done? Are you getting pap smears? These are things that are important. Are you eating healthy? Are you exercising? That is a component of wholeness. Okay? The Bible says in 1 Corinthians 6:19-20, this is the ESV version. He says, or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you were bought with a price. And so because we are not ours, we are designed for a specific task and purpose here on the earth. We need our physical bodies to get the job done. Can you minister on your deathbed? Absolutely. But you're not traveling across the world. So we have to be intentional about how we handle our bodies. You don't want to meet the person of your dreams and then in the next moment they're gone because they didn't take care of their health. Second component to wholeness, your emotional state. How are you feeling inwardly? This point can get you in a lot of trouble because a lot of times we just be in our feelings all the time. I know people that are extremely emotional. I used to be that person. And I'm thank God I've been delivered. Emotional people, they're draining. They wear their emotions on their sleeve. They're easily offended. They look at people and they're accusatory. They always think that something is happening to them. Somebody's doing something to them. You cannot be an emotional wreck in a basket case and think that you're going to live in a healthy relationship. Emotional beings, remember, we live in our flesh, but we should be driven by the spirit. Spiritual man and emotions are 2 different things. Because when you are spiritual, you will do things that you don't feel like doing. When you are emotional, it dictates what you do. It dictates your actions. For example, I didn't feel like walking today. I didn't feel like doing it. I didn't want to. I was tired. I didn't feel like working today. I didn't want to sign on to work today. But did I do it? Yes. Why? Because I have to dictate what I'm going to do, what my emotions are going to do, what it's telling me to do. I can say no and check it at the door. We're going to do this. And so if I was an emotional basket case, I would say I'm not signing on today for work. I'm not showing up for this or that. I'm not going to go there because they're going to be there and I don't want to deal with them. Emotional beings have problems with just handling simple things in life. So be careful that you don't wear your emotions on your sleeve. Are we emotional beings? Absolutely. But they should not dictate how we move. You should have control over your being, over your body, and you tell it what to do. Okay? Next up, mental. The mental state is the third component for wholeness. What's on your mind? What are you thinking? What are you saying to yourself? I have had to work at this intentionally for several years. I realized that I didn't talk well to myself. I talked bad to me about myself. I would say things like, Shavonda, that is so stupid. Why did you say that? You shouldn't have never said that. And I know now that it was triggered from something that happened to me when it was something that somebody that I respected and I admired when I was young. And I was a kid and they said, you're an embarrassment. And from there, it stuck with me. And all these years later, I had to unpack that. And so I was telling myself over and over again the things that I heard people were saying about me. So what are you telling yourself? What is on your mind? What are you replaying in your head over and over and over again? I had to really legit get my feelings in check and be like, stop it, Shavonda. I spoke last week and I'm telling you, I was like, well, this wasn't right. That wasn't right. I made this mistake. This wasn't fixed right. This wasn't written right. Lord was like, stop. It's exhausting. Stop. You're fearfully and wonderfully made. Philippians 2:5 says, think of yourself the way Christ thought of himself. Christ made himself no reputation. He walked in humility. He showed love and kindness. He was about the agenda of the Father. So if you're telling yourself anything else about you, about what you're not, now do we have things to work on? Absolutely. But you can't beat yourself up. You move forward and you get better. You grow. You mature. Romans 12:2 says, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is good and acceptable and perfect will of God. That ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. So when we think about what we're saying to ourselves, we have to constantly renew our minds in the word, constantly renew our minds and accept what God says about us over what we feel about us, or even what people say about us. Sometimes we can allow that to trip us up. Remember, everything starts in the mind. Every single thing that happens in your life, it starts with a thought in your mind. If you can control your thoughts, you can control your life. And if we're applying what this is saying by renewing your mind, that we may prove what is that good, acceptable, and perfect will of God, not our will, but his will, then we thrive. Then we become successful. Moving on. Fourth component of wholeness, your spiritual being, which is your relationship with God and journey towards your purpose, what you were created in this earth to do. If you have to be intentional about what you are created in this earth to do, you have to be intentional about seeking that out, seeking God for the answer, seeking his face for direction. And the reason why this is important, because whoever you're designed to be with should complement your purpose. should complement your destiny. But if you are a hot mess, then you tend to attract what? A hot mess. And if you attract something that's not a hot mess, you can't keep it for long. Why? Because birds of the feather flock together. And so it's extremely difficult when you're found outside of the will of God to really embrace and even see what God has purpose for us. And that's why it's important to understand your relationship with God and your journey towards your purpose first before connecting or trying to connect with someone else. Okay? So, once we have those 4 components intact, you still have to work on your character. You can have the physical state right, you're healthy. You can have the mental state right. You know, you're thinking about all the right things. Your spiritual state is great. Your emotional state is healthy. But if you don't have character, no one's going to be attracted to you. So when we think about how 2 halves don't make a whole, you can't be lopsided in one area and use the other person as a scapegoat not to do the work to get better in the areas that you lack in. So you can't hide behind a person who is loving because you're not loving. After a while, it's going to exhaust them. I was telling them earlier, I know someone, great person, do anything for you. Attitude is nasty. They have a nasty attitude. And it's like, they don't see it. And nobody wants to be around them for long because they have a nasty attitude. And so you have to start to identify the areas that you need to work on, because you want your character to speak for you. And truth be told, it already does. So start to ask yourself things like, can you submit? It's another thing. Do you have an issue with submission? You independent woman, independent Black woman, can't nobody tell you nothing. All that's fine and good. But what happens when you want to get married and you say your vows? I was telling them earlier on Instagram, there was a wedding, and this young lady, they were saying their vows middle of the wedding, and in the part that it said to love and obey. She was like, what? We didn't talk about that. The pastor goes, yes, we did. Well, I don't know about that one. We can skip past that. She, before they even got married, she has a problem with submission. So I was like Kermit the Frog on there, like, this is ridiculous. Submission is honorable in sight of the Lord. Da, 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 da. This person's like, you are so foolish. You are so foolish talking about you obey somebody. That's the issue with 2023. No, he can't knock me upside my head. But if God is going to require him to love me like Christ loved the church, I'm going to obey him. That's the one you obey. I'm going to submit to that. And it's submission, what? One to another. So if you got an issue with submission, if you're selfish, if you lie all the time, or in the worst, if you're insecure. I remember I dated a guy, we were out, this old man gives me a compliment. I mean, I'm talking about, he probably could have been my great-great-grandfather. I ain't lying. Like, seriously, dude, he was not a threat. He got so jealous. The guy I was with got so jealous. And he said, listen, dude, you can't get mad at these brothers out here that's looking at the menu. That's what he said to him. He said, as long as they don't get to order. And Other words, you can't get mad at somebody admiring the woman that you have because she's beautiful, as long as she's not entertaining it. But he was so insecure. So then I felt like I couldn't look nowhere. People would wave. I was just like, hey, I had to keep my head forward. I didn't want to start an argument. It was bondage. So I say all that to say, identify the flaws in your character. Identify what you need to work on as an individual. We have all these requirements of the people, as you should. We have all these requirements of the people that we want to be with eventually, that we want to grow old with. But what requirements do you have of yourself? Are you able to fulfill that which you require? So two halves can't make a whole. You shouldn't get with someone to fill voids or to make you feel better. It is a deadly game to play. It will end nowhere if you are with someone to fill an empty space that you don't have in your life. And I'm going to tell you why. Because the only person that can truly fill that empty void is God. You can look all you want. It's going to be breakup after breakup after breakup until you put the priority first, which is God and his love for you. Another thing is, the moment they leave, and they will, because if you're too needy, they out of there. Then what? You've got this person because you want happiness, and so you want them to make you happy. What happens when they don't make you happy anymore? So you can't allow someone else to have that much power over you. You have to tell yourself, no, I'm going to make myself happy. I'm going to do what's pleasing to God. I'm going to find what my purpose is. I'm going to get so overwhelmed in where God has me, and I'm not concerned about everything else. So those are the 4 things that you want to identify first. And identify if you are in fact whole. These 4 components: your spiritual state, mental state, emotional state, and physical state. If you lack in any of these areas, do the work. And you're not doing the work for anybody else, you're doing it for you, because it's the right thing to do, because you owe it to you and you owe it to God. And then once you've identified that you are stronger in those areas, that's when you look into the other areas, the area of your character. How can you grow? Do you need to be more compassionate? Are you sharp-tongued? Do you cut people off? Are you easily offended? Do you overtalk people or talk over top of them? Do you give too much? Do you say yes when you should have said no? Are you a people pleaser? Character. Because character is what they'll be attracted to in you. And you want to make sure you attract all the right things. So I love you guys. The love of the Lord. Continue to pray for me as I pray for you. I hope you have an amazing evening, and I will see you next Monday, God willing. Have an amazing night, guys. Bye.